She won a Supreme Court case 9 votes to nothing, and never lived to see a single dollar of it. Vicki Lynn Marshall, the world knew her as Anna Nicole Smith, spent the last 10 years of her life chasing a billionaire's fortune through the American courts. She won at trial. She won at the highest bench in the country. And she still got nothing. By the time the final ruling came down, nearly everyone with a claim to that money was already in the grave. The record of how that happened is stranger than the tabloids ever made it, because the tabloids only wanted the punchline. The court file wanted the truth. It began in a Houston club in 1991. She was a dancer, barely into her 20s, working nights while raising a young son. She was still years from the fame that would come, the magazine covers, the modeling campaigns, the name recognized in every checkout line in America. She was, at that moment, just a woman on a stage. And into that club walked J. Howard Marshall II, 86 years old, a Yale-trained lawyer who had turned an early stake in oil into a fortune estimated at more than $1.5 billion. He saw her. And by every account in the record, he did not stop thinking about her for the rest of his life. They married in June of 1994. She was 26. He was 89. The country looked at the photographs and decided it already knew the story, the gold digger and the dying old man. It is the easiest story in the world to tell. It asks nothing of you. You look at an age gap and a bank balance, and you fill in the rest. But here is what the courtroom testimony described, and what the cameras never captured. Marshall, by the accounts of people who knew him, was not confused. He was not senile. He was a man who had buried a wife, watched a long relationship end, and found, near the end of his life, someone who made him feel young again. He showered her with gifts, jewelry, cash, property, more than $6 million worth while he was still alive. And according to Anna Nicole, he made her a promise. He told her he would take care of her. He told her that half of what he had would one day be hers. That promise was never written down. And that single missing document would echo through the courts of 2 states and the highest bench in the country for the next 16 years. Because a promise you can prove is an inheritance. A promise you can't is just a story you tell. And people believe the story that costs them the least to believe. Marshall died on August 4, 1995. 14 months after the wedding. And when the will was opened, Anna Nicole's name was not in it. Everything he owned went to one person, his son, E. Pierce Marshall. Pierce Marshall had spent years watching his father's money flow toward a woman he saw as a threat. The will made it official, the estate, the trusts, all of it, structured to leave the widow with nothing. And Anna Nicole, who believed she had been promised half, refused to walk away. What followed was not one lawsuit. It was a war fought on 2 fronts, in 2 states, for over a decade. In Texas, the probate court took up the will. Was it valid? Had Pierce manipulated his aging father, isolated him, steered the fortune away from the wife the old man loved? That fight ran for 5 months in front of a jury. The tabloids covered the outfits. The record covered the accusations, that documents had been forged, that a dying man had been cut off from the person he wanted to protect. In the end, the Texas jury sided with Pierce. The will stood. She got nothing. And notice the rhythm of it. A jury takes 5 months to decide what a crowd decides in 5 seconds. The court demanded documents, witnesses, cross-examination, proof. The public demanded nothing but a face and a number. That gap, between how slowly the law judges and how fast we do, is the whole story of what happened to her. But the second front was already open. Back in 1996, buried under both Marshall's gifts and her own spending, Anna Nicole had filed for bankruptcy in California. And into that federal bankruptcy case, Pierce made a move that would change everything. He filed a claim accusing her of defamation, of spreading lies that he had forged his father's documents. By filing that claim, he dragged the whole fight into federal court. And Anna Nicole fired back with a counterclaim of her own, that Pierce had tortiously interfered, that he had deliberately, unlawfully blocked the gift his father meant to leave her. The California bankruptcy judge listened to all of it, the gifts, the promises, the testimony about how the estate had been steered. And in the year 2000, that judge ruled for her. The finding was blunt: Pierce had destroyed documents and schemed to cut her out. The award was staggering, over $470 million. For a moment, she had won. A federal court had looked at the same facts the public laughed at and reached the opposite verdict. A district court later trimmed the number to roughly $88 million. But $88 million is still a fortune, and it was still, on paper, hers. And this is the part the punchline never included. The joke was always that she was a gold digger who ended up with nothing. The record said a judge who actually heard the evidence believed she had been robbed. Then the ground shifted under her, not over the money, but over the map. Which court was even allowed to decide this? The Ninth Circuit reversed the whole thing. Their reasoning had nothing to do with whether she deserved the money. It was jurisdiction. There is an old doctrine called the probate exception, the idea that federal courts stay out of state probate matters. And a probate matter is exactly what Texas had already decided. On that logic, the federal award vanished. She had $88 million on paper, and then she had zero. So she took it to the Supreme Court of the United States. Marshall versus Marshall. In 2006, the justices ruled, and they ruled for her. 9-0. Justice Ginsburg wrote the opinion, narrowing that old probate exception, holding that the federal courts had every right to hear her claim after all. The case was sent back down to be finished. It was the highest victory an American litigant can win. And it would be worth, in the end, nothing at all. Because while the lawyers argued over which courthouse held the power, the people at the center of the case began to die. Pierce Marshall, the son who inherited everything, the man she had fought for 11 years, died in June of 2006, only months after the ruling. Then in September, Anna Nicole's 20-year-old son, Daniel, died suddenly. And on February 8, 2007, Anna Nicole Smith herself was found dead in a Florida hotel room. She was 39. An accidental overdose of prescription drugs. The fortune was still unresolved. Two of the people fighting over it were already gone. And the case, somehow, was not. It went back to the Supreme Court a second time, now as Stern versus Marshall, carried by her estate against his. And in 2011, 16 years after the old man died, the justices ruled again. This time, 5-4, they went the other way. Chief Justice Roberts wrote it. The bankruptcy court, he held, never had the constitutional power to enter that judgment in the first place. The $88 million was not merely reduced. It was erased. Anna Nicole Smith won at trial. She won a unanimous Supreme Court. And her estate walked away with nothing. The will she challenged never gave her a cent, and the judgment she won was voided after she was already dead. Think about what it means to win twice and collect nothing. She was not beaten by the facts. 2 courts and, at one point, 9 justices stood with her. She was beaten by time, by procedure, by the slow machinery grinding on long after the people it was meant to serve had died. The law does not care how tired you are. It does not care that you are gone. 16 years. 2 Supreme Court rulings. 3 funerals. And a fortune that, in the end, passed to no one who ever went to war for it. Here is what the record leaves you with. For more than a decade, a country looked at a single photograph and told itself a simple joke about a woman it had never met. The joke was clean. It required no evidence. And the whole time, in filings the public never opened, a different story sat on the record, a promise that couldn't be proven, a judge who believed her, a legal fight so serious it reshaped how American courts divide their power. The crowd got the punchline. The file got the truth. And the two were never the same story. So ask yourself, the next time you decide, in a single glance, exactly who someone is, how sure are you that you're reading the person, and not just the story that costs you the least to believe? Follow for more.